And with the reopening picking up pace here in Ontario and really across Canada, where do things stand when it comes to limiting that second wave? What do we do? For more, and hopefully a lot of answers here, Dr. Isaac Bogosh, infectious diseases specialist with the University Health Network, joins us again this morning. Good morning to you, doctor.
Good morning.
The oh-so second wave question that everyone always has the question to, what do we do? So let's begin here. A lot of businesses and services reopening starting in Ontario tomorrow and then into next week. And a lot of people are nervous still with some of the restrictions that are in place, whether or not it's enough. Do you think it's enough? Do you think it's too soon?
Yeah, I think it's tough, right? We've got to find that sweet spot between balancing the risks of reopening and, of course, the benefits of lifting these public health restrictions that we're living under. I think, you know, when we hear about Ontario having about 300-ish new cases per day, we're certainly in a much better place than we were several weeks ago, where we were having, you know, anywhere from 600 to 700 new cases per day. So things are headed in the right direction in the GTA and elsewhere in Ontario. The strategy to reopen is very, very conservative. It's very modest. You know, businesses have to have appropriate measures in place to ensure the safety of their employees and the safety of customers. I think this is a good first step, and I still think people have to realize that if they're not practicing physical distancing, you know, and if we do this too quickly, we're going to get a surge of cases, and then we're going to have to clamp back down. So, you know, this is not a linear path forward. There might be, you know, 2 steps forward and 1 step back, or even at worst, 2 steps back. So we have to keep an open mind here, but it's okay to start. Give it a start right now.
A lot of people have the questions about when people were being infected in the beginning. One of the top questions I know you were getting was, are they immune? Do they have the antibodies now in their system? Now we have Health Canada approving that first antibodies test to kind of trace within the blood what it looks like, what's going on in your body. How do you see this all playing out and playing a big role when it comes to looking at a possible second wave?
Yeah, certainly the antibody test will be extremely helpful because it really lets us answer a lot of these key questions about, you know, to what extent is someone immune after infection and how long will they be immune? And these antibody tests will be instrumental in helping answer some of those questions. Most people in medicine and science believe that people would have some degree of immunity for, you know, some period of time. We just don't know after this infection. And I think Health Canada really did the right thing by, you know, waiting basically about 6 to 8 weeks before approving this test, just to make sure that we were approving a high-quality test. There's a lot of poor antibody tests out on the market, and we sort of watched this play out in the United States, actually, for the last couple of months, and chose a strong one. So I think it's going to be a helpful tool in the toolkit. It's not going to solve all our problems, that's for sure. But, you know, it'll be very interesting to watch how the provinces deploy this, to see what is the impact of COVID-19 in communities, and even to see how we can use this on an individual level as well.
I want to get to a couple viewer questions here. There are many. This one coming to us from Rich saying, why isn't there a coordinated effort to extensively scale up our testing and tracing capacity? We know in the province of Ontario, they've just extended it a little bit when it comes to those who may be symptomatic. What is your take on testing?
Yeah, so certainly this call in Ontario, at least, to expand testing to anyone with any symptoms is the right move. Absolutely the right move. There's the capacity to do this now, and you know, people who have any symptoms suggestive of COVID-19 should go get tested. It doesn't even matter how mild those symptoms are, because we know many people might have mild infection. So that's a good first step. Tracing and contact tracing, you know, I think there certainly is room for improvement. Of course, it's being done. But really, to be successful in this period of time where we're gradually lifting public health restrictions, we have to have very rapid contact tracing. It's pretty labor-intensive to do, and it can take some time. And of course, the faster it's done, the greater the probability that people who are at risk of this infection are identified and placed in a 14-day period of isolation to really prevent getting this infection back into the community. So I think there's room to improve on that front. But kudos to the provincial government and the public health labs for expanding the diagnostic testing in the province. That was a great move.
Very quickly, I want to get this one in here because a lot of people were hoping yesterday's announcement was going to say, OK, you can now expand your group of people you can hang out with. And that was not the case. And this Twitter question saying people are now permitted to have maids and cleaners come into their home as part of this announcement. Aren't we risking more outbreaks with that if families aren't allowed to get together?
Yeah, certainly we are. I mean, nothing goes without risk. It's just a matter. It's a matter of risk perception, risk threshold, risk tolerance. And certainly the more people we interact with, the greater the probability that this infection can get reintroduced in places. But these are calculated risks. And if people feel that this is too much or too great a risk, don't do it. But certainly the province felt that given the declining rates of COVID-19 in the province, that this was an acceptable policy to make. And, we also have to remember that, most of the cases in Ontario are clustered. About 60% of the cases are in the GTA. A large proportion of those are in long-term care facilities. And obviously that's terrible. And certainly that's, there's new policies to help mitigate that and address that. We are headed in the right direction. But of course, in this era, nothing is 0% risk. It might be a small risk, but it's certainly not a 0% risk. And people need to really think about whether this is worth it or not for them in their individual situation.
So still take that extra care, especially this long weekend when you're making certain decisions. Dr. Isaac Bogoch, thank you for joining us. Appreciate your time.
Anytime.